Good morning. Hey, Word Saints. God bless and keep all of you. Glad to have you with us, all of you beautiful people. I'm going to tell you a story about a young man whose mother came to him and said, I'm going on a Friday, I'm going away for the weekend, and I'll be back Sunday sometime after church. I want you to, take care of the house. I'm going to leave you alone. But I want to make sure there are two big jugs, gallon jugs of orange juice in the refrigerator. I want to make sure you drink them. To which the boy says, I don't like orange juice. Like, why do I have to drink the orange juice? Well, it's good for you, and I expect that you drink that orange juice. And the boy pushed back a little bit. The young man, he didn't really want to drink the orange juice. And I just don't get it. I'm not going to drink it. You are going to drink it. So as the mother's preparing to leave, she says, now look, I don't want any parties in this house while I'm gone. Nobody to come over here, right? This is my house. I'm going away. I'll be back on Sunday. Leave the house in peace so that when I come home, it's in peace. And don't forget to drink that orange juice. Mom, I don't like orange juice. I don't care. Drink your orange juice. So mom leaves and goes away for the weekend. And he decided to have a party and invite some friends over. And, against the wishes of his mother, this young man decided, we can do it. We can pull it off. We're going to have a party. Just a few friends to come over. We won't make a mess. She'll never even know. Well, of course, anyone who has gone to a high school party knows that 3 people invited becomes quickly 30 or 50. And at this particular party, there were people who brought adult libations. I know that seems shocking, but it actually happened. And they had this, let's just say this, it was clear. It was clear adult beverage. And they poured it into a big bucket. But they didn't want to drink it straight because it's gross. So we didn't know what to do. The orange juice. So took the orange juice, both jugs, and poured it into the adult beverages, mixed it around, and everybody did what they did. Now, this Saturday night the party was fun. There were a lot of people. As I said, it was more than 3. It was more than 30. It was far too many. And lo and behold, mom pulled a fast one and came home Saturday night and caught what was happening. Needless to say, enraged, threw everybody out of the house and laid into the young man. She said to him, how could you do this? I gave you commandments. I expected that you followed my rules. Do the things that I asked you to do. It's not really that hard. I'm just disappointed. I'm floored. I'm stunned. What do you have to say for yourself? At least we drank the orange juice. In the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 24 and 25, there is a 2-chapter setup where Christ is talking about the coming of the Son of Man. And he will come to judge. He's going to set things right between all people. And he will do so at a time when no one knows. So you had better be prepared. And you prepare yourself by doing his will, which is to love the needy neighbor. So as you can see it on your screen, the 2 chapters are broken into 5 parts. The Son of Man is coming to judge. No one knows when he's coming, so you better be ready. You better be prepared. The 4th part is to do that by doing his will, which is taking care of those in need. And today we're going to talk about that 4th section in this 5-part breakdown. And that is the story we just heard read for us about the talents. There is a man, and he's going to go away on a journey, right? He's going to go away, and he brings 3 of his servants, and he gives each of them, it says property, right? He gives them stuff. Some translations call it possessions, some say money. The idea is whatever it may be, he gives them and entrusts them with his property. And the first guy, according to their ability, how many skills or gifts they had, he gave 5 talents, right? A talent is a monetary unit, all right? So he's using the metaphor, Matthew's using the metaphor of money. He gave him 5 talents, which is like basically 5 years of a laborer's wage, right? So it's pay for like 5 years. The second guy comes and he gives him 2 talents, right? Now, before I go into the second guy, you can notice he gave 5 talents, each according to his ability, and then he went away, right? You see it. He went away. Keep that one in mind. First guy, he gives 5 talents. The second guy comes, he gives him 2 talents. And the third guy, he gives only 1 talent. Now, immediately after he has given his possessions and he goes away, the first guy takes his 5 talents and he goes and he gets after it. And he works and he trades and he makes this 5 into 5 more. And likewise, the second guy who had 2 talents, he went and hustled also. And he took the 2 and he doubled it, right? The third guy, however, makes the grave mistake. He gets nervous. So what does he do? He digs a big ditch, a hole, and he puts it in the ground and he buries it so no one will find it, right? You could imagine he's like, oh my gosh, I mean, what if something happens? What if I mess this up, right? So I'll hide it. Now, after a while, at a time unbeknownst, I don't know, much like a mom on a weekend party, comes home and starts to check in on his 3 servants. And he says to the first guy, what did you do? He said, look, I took the 5 and I made 5 more. And the guy with 2, I took 2 and I also doubled it. I made 2 more. And he says, in both instances, well done, good and faithful servant. Enter into the joy of your master. I gave you a little bit and you did it. You did the business. You worked at it and you multiplied it. Now come into the joy of your master. Then the third guy comes. And he says some, pretty bold things to this master. Look, I knew you to be a hard man. I knew you were rotten. You're scary. You reap where you don't sow. And so I was afraid. And so rather than risk it, I buried it. And here I give it back to you. So he didn't lose a penny. He gave back what he was given. Now you could imagine that the master was a little bit upset. And he calls him a wicked servant. He says, you knew I reaped where I didn't sow? You knew me to be a hard man? Okay, at least put it in the bank. Even in today's time. At least earn 0.02%, right? Get something out of it, right? Do something with what I gave you. Instead, you took this possession of mine, this gift that I gave you, and you didn't produce any fruit, right? Not good. And then he does something even beautiful, more beautiful. Well, that was not beautiful at all. He does something beautiful. He takes the 1 talent from that guy, right? This year's worth of wage. And he says, give it to the guy who had 5, right? So the guy who doubled his work, who took the gifts that he was given, multiplied through his labor, through his work, he is rewarded with this great gift. And it's not about money per se, right? It's about the blessings that he was given. He used them, he multiplied them, and he was rewarded. And it says, for everyone who has some and does this, more will be given to him. More will be given to her, right? And the one who has nothing, i.e. the guy with the 1 talent, all of it will be taken away, right? You see that. The point, the message in all of this is that God expects us, if we're listening to this story of the talents, it's talking to us. He expects that with the gifts that we have all been given, that we also produce fruit, right? Maybe double, I don't know, but at least to take the blessings he gave us and make more. And look, here's the part of the whole, the judgment stuff. We will be held accountable, right? Remember, chapter 24 and 25 of Matthew is within the coming of the judge, the Son of Man who will judge. And the very next passage after the one we read this morning is Christ judging the nations. And you know the story. We'll read it in a couple of weeks. You fed me when I was hungry, clothed me when I was naked, visited me when I was sick, gave me drink, and welcomed me as a stranger, and so on, right? We know that. And he's going to judge based on that. And so it is for us to accept the gifts, the blessings that he has given us, and to produce fruit. And he will judge accordingly. Does that make sense? He's going to come and ask the question, "O good and faithful servant, did you take 5 and make 5, or 2 and make 2, or did you hide yours in the ground?" Right? Now, it's a hard thing to do because often we look around and we think like, well, I have all kinds of gifts, or maybe even we feel like I don't have any gifts. But in truth, all of us have wonderful gifts. In truth, there's one that I know we all have, and we're going to address it today. It is the gift of compassion. Every person in this building, on that screen, in the world, has been given the gift of God, this talent of compassion. Now, compassion means that we are focused on another person. We're looking towards another person. Or at least we have the ability to look towards another person and see in them what their needs may be, and then to do our part to grant those needs. You see that? Compassion It dwells richly within each and every person. But we must take that gift, take that talent, and multiply it. Sometimes it's not fun. Sometimes it's not interesting, as we're going to see in just a moment that with the two practical tips we're going to talk about. Like, it's uncomfortable. It's not fun, right? And yet that gift has been given, and God expects that we multiply it. The first one is welcoming a stranger. As we'll see in a couple of weeks when we read the Gospel of Matthew, which we talked about, fed me when I was hungry, clothed me naked, and so on. You welcomed me when I was a stranger. I'll tell you a funny story. One Sunday, I did not come to liturgy here. I was supposed to travel. Everything fell apart. I had an assistant substitute priest, so I said, I'm going to sleep in. And I said, no, I'm not going to waste the time. There's a large Protestant mega church near where I live. I said, I'm going to go. I want to see what they do. I want to learn. And I went in there in street clothes by myself, and I was, for me who loves to chat, I was nervous. I didn't know anybody, right? And I walked into this place, and this lady immediately came up to me and welcomed me. And she immediately took me and sat me with, 3 other ladies. I may have told you that story before, and gave me like a small community who would guide me through their service. You understand? It was immediate that they welcomed the stranger. Now, obviously never going back. This is our home, our church. But that taught me a great lesson, that when someone is alone, it is so easy for us to overlook them. It's so easy for us to let them remain alone. But like that lady in that church, it is our responsibility, as God has commanded us, to use the gift of compassion and welcome that stranger. Now think about it. Our young guys and gals in school, there's always the new kid or the weird kid who may sit at lunch at the table by him or herself, right? How dare you let them sit alone? It's your responsibility to sit with them or to bring them into your friend group, right? The same thing can happen at the workplace where there's a new person who's hired, or somebody, who may even be a little bit irritating in the workplace. And yet it is our responsibility to show compassion and welcome that stranger. Look, it happens here, and it breaks my heart when I see it. When I walk next door to coffee hour and I see a guest in our home sitting at the tables by themselves. And as you can tell, there are guests and visitors every single Sunday. And so does that mean that every single Sunday we let our guests and visitors sit over there by themselves? Bil Arabi, ay bashum. Shame on you. It is our responsibility to show compassion, and God will come to ask about it. So with the weird kid at school, or the new guy in the workplace, or the guests and visitors in our home, let us be compassionate and welcome them. It's pretty simple. Hi, my name is Father Chris. What's your name? Right? I know it may be awkward sometimes because you don't like to talk to people you don't know. It's not hard. Welcome a guest. Welcome a stranger. Number 2, it's very difficult to, feeling on the inside to feed someone who's hungry, right? It's easy enough when we drive off the freeway off-ramp and there's, the homeless people there are begging, and, if we feel guilty, we just roll down the window and hand some, quick small amounts of money through the window. And we feel like, okay, I got it over with, right? Try this one. This is hard. Take them and feed them and eat with them, right? I know that's uncomfortable, and I'm not asking you to put some random stranger in your car and be unsafe. Obviously not, right? Be smart about it. But I'm asking you to think, will you feed a stranger and also at the same time welcome him by making him feel human? Look, we used to do this years ago. Our teens created an outreach ministry they called Out and About Reach, right? Like, so out and about reach. And we would come to church and make sack lunches and go to some of the rougher parts of town and distribute them to the poor and the hungry. And we always made a point that we had enough sack lunches for us and we could sit and eat with them, right? And I'll tell you, even for me, an adult male, it was uncomfortable, didn't like it. But as I did this, more and more I started to realize I'm showing God's compassion to people in need. And guess what? They're actually, I know this is going to be a shocker, they're actually human beings. They're like us, right? They may be in a tough situation in their life, but they are human beings who are hungry and in need, and it is our duty to feed them. Does that make sense? I know it's hard, and again, please don't say, I'm going to stop and pull over and let someone in my car because Father Chris said so. That's not what I said, right? But I want you to think about the discomfort and overcoming that discomfort so that when you see someone who is in need, you offer them bread, right? Beloved, as we heard in the story of the talents, the one who took the gifts that the master had given to him and multiplied was given the reward. And it says, for all who have, you will be given in abundance, right? Again, it's not talking about money. It's saying the gifts that God has given you. In our case today, the compassion and the love for another person that God has given you, you can multiply that if you are only willing to make that effort. And so that at the end, God forbid, many, many years from now, when we lose our life and we die from this world into the next, God will look at us as the master looked at the servant and says, well done. God bless and keep you.